Hi, and welcome to Search Shots Gaming. I'm Tyler, and with me is Dave
Hey everyone, how's it going?
and Chris.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo,
Fashizzle.
yo, yo.
Words that
Okay,
should not come out of my
Tyler,
mouth.
I'm whiter than a mayonnaise sandwich, and even that was awful.
I'm well aware. I'm well
Yeah,
aware. I
okay.
bring that cringe factor.
Oh Jesus.
Well, welcome back to Search Shots Gaming. Every week we get together, talk about what we've been playing, different things in the video game world. Today, once we go over what we've been playing, we're going to talk about the most infuriating bosses we've ever encountered in video games. And some of these are like, cursing like a sailor, throwing the controller until it smashes a million pieces, frustrating. So, a good release of tension hobby.
You know, the usual for a 13-year-old typical hardcore gamer.
Right.
I have thrown controllers. I will not deny it.
I have not thrown a controller. I have literally though gotten up and gotten stomping mad though.
Haven't thrown a controller, did lose my voice while yelling at the game, and did bite a controller.
Wait, bite a controller?
Yeah. I pulled like a Shaun of the Dead. It was kind of like
Fair
Yeah.
enough. But
hmm
before we get into those infuriating bosses, let's talk about what we've been playing. And if you guys don't mind, I'd like to start off first here.
Yeah, no problem.
So
Floor
I've been
stars.
continuing my journey into Ghost of Tsushima,
hmm
and I've come to a revelation.
Mhm.
If they ever make a Ghost of Tsushima 2, which I think they're going to,
I don't think it's an if. It's
Yeah,
a
I think it's a win.
I want
Because they're
there to
not
be
doing much with Sly Cooper.
I want there to be branching paths where you either follow the honorable way of the samurai or go more of the way of the ghost of the thief and the stabbing and whatnot. Because there's so many times in the game where I'm like, I know doing the honorable samurai, calling them out, is going to be the tougher way to approach it. But I want to see if I can do that challenge. I want to see if I can do it this way. So I hardly do any sneaking backstabbing. Anytime I fight, it's right up in their face, countering, changing my stances, etc. Only
Okay.
now have I gotten to a point where I've started using my shurikens and or not the shurikens, the kunai knives and
Mhm.
like the sticky bombs. But that's
Do
only
you,
like
do you use the challenges where you shout and you do like the quick the
every
quick draw?
every time,
God,
every
that
time,
stuff is so cool.
every time. But that's also the honorable thing is I'm not trying to sneak up on them. I'm just trying to go right up to it and just be like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm here. We're doing this. And I hate it whenever I have the sneaking missions where they've got the hostages where I have to sneak in. I don't want to sneak. I just want to go in and be the honorable samurai. So I get why they did it that way. It's telling a great story and creating a real kind of dynamic between doing what's honorable but doing versus doing what's effective. I just hope that whenever they create the sequel, I almost want it to be a Paragon versus Renegade system where how I play, not even like choices I make, how I play impacts the rumors and myths about me as a character.
Interesting. That would be cool.
I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, it's wouldn't be too far of a stretch for them. I mean, this is the same group that made the Infamous series, right?
Yeah.
And so choice has always been, since Infamous has been part of their games.
hmm
Yeah. So that is my hope. Still loving it. Still absolutely loving it. I just unlocked the moon stance, so I now have all 4 stances.
See, my thing is, I think what's going to happen is I think it's going to be more like the story of the ghost is really more of the story of the birth of like the classic Japanese ninja archetype, So it wouldn't surprise me if like the sequel is like Ghost of Tsushima, Birth of the Shinobi, or something like that. because that's what I felt from playing that game all the way through. Although I haven't played the Iki Island expansion yet. Do need to do that.
The Iki Island expansion takes place like in the same it's not like after the game,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah,
It
and
takes
in
place
fact,
like during the same timeline. So it's
Okay.
not like you missed anything by. I mean, it's great. You should play it. It tells a great story about Jin and I don't know.
Mhm.
That is his name, isn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah, Jin
Okay.
Sakai.
Jin Sakai.
Jin
Yeah,
Sakai. Okay. First, second one after I said it, I was like, that doesn't sound right. But okay, yeah. Jin
Mhm.
Sakai and his dad is
Oh, okay.
what the Iki Island expansion is really
because
about.
spoiler, that's where his dad died, right?
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've actually come across where I can start the Iki Island if I wanted to, but I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna hold off until like the final boss, go do Iki Island, and then come back to finish the game to have one kind of complete story.
Yeah. How close are you to finishing the game, actually?
I am taking my sweet old time on this game, so
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
right dab in the middle of the second act, but I am doing every single side story as I come across them.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
I
Mhm.
just worked my way through the monk's story, or at least as far as I can right now. With the Buddha statue.
Mhm.
The heavyset monk.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was his name? No,
Nope.
well,
No buy.
nobody.
NOB.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobie
that's right.
or something like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of those, man, those the side quests that you do, like your other companions, are great.
Yep.
Mhm.
I really liked oh man, what's the lady? Lady Masakai? Is that her
Yeah.
name?
Mhm.
With her
Mhm.
fallen house. So
Yep.
Man.
so
Mhm.
I
Whew.
don't spoil much here, but I
I
have gotten
won't,
to the
but
point where her old housemaid was stealing stuff, but that used to be her old lover.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have a theory. I, I can't prove this theory, but I have a theory. I think the person behind all of this found out she was a little sweet on that on the housekeeper there, and is
Mhm.
actually her husband. That in like a jealous rage has done this. No,
Okay.
don't say yes or no yet. Um,
I
I,
have no reaction.
Yeah, we'll let you wait till next week.
if I get to it that point by then,
I get you. Yeah.
but yeah, I've been enjoying it immensely. Looking forward to keep playing, and then once I'm finished with that, it's back to Elden Ring.
Nice.
I get you.
Yeah. So what have you guys been playing?
Well, I still am focusing on Cyberpunk. Again,
Okay.
still really enjoying it. Again, I think, but then again, now that I think about it, my complaints now with the game are I've only encountered ever immersion breaking bugs. That's been it. Now, I know for some people, though, there has been. So I think, really, honestly, some of the vitriol that it gets now is just kind of held over for,
From when
yeah,
they
they botched the launch. We had clearly the business people who know what they're doing on top say, no, this
don't.
needs to come out now, when everyone else was saying, no. And yeah, you flubbed it. Now it's to the point, though, where it is in a very playable state. And now I would imagine CD Projekt Red is probably, they were probably able to tell Business Daddy, we told you,
Yep.
and, let us do what we need to do,
Sure.
and are probably fixing all of these quality of life bugs that are just immersion breaking before they then focus on expanded content. So,
Isn't didn't they announce an expansion? Not this year, but I think it's coming next year.
So when
mhm.
they launched the game, not only did they announce there'd be single player expansions, they announced an MMO style expansion to it
Yeah,
as well, a
Mhm.
I
la Grand
think
Theft Auto Online.
right.
Mhm.
I think that the promises of the multiplayer stuff has been curtailed. I don't know if they're
Uh,
still
mhm.
actually going to do that or not. But
Yeah.
I do believe that there is that they're already mentioned that they're working on the first single player expansion for the game.
Yes, but if I were them, I would definitely
It's
hold
not
my
gonna
horses.
it's not gonna come out this year. I mean,
Yeah, and I
it'll
would
come out
also fix more of
next
these
year.
bugs before do more bug fixes than anything. So I've been really enjoying that. I find myself really bad at bothering to do the main quest, though. I find myself Skyrimming a lot, in that there's just like, oh, what's this side mission? It's just like,
Mm.
oh, this man's cyborg male enhancement has gone malfunction and he's now electrocuting him through the crotch. Let's get him to the doctor really quickly. And that was a mission. And then there's another. Oh, this group of street punks is holding up a guy in basically like an Asian food stand. Let's commit a slight amount of murder and set them straight. Just stupid stuff like that. And then there's some really cool side missions, and it's just one of them was about a criminal who he like killed a bunch of people in like a robbery gone wrong, and then went to jail and found Jesus in jail. Literally, he like discovered a religion, and he feels that the only way he can truly repent is to have himself be crucified. And what has happened is a studio who does what is called a brain dance. Now, brain dances are the new forms of entertainment. You kind of lock into kind of like a VR kind of situation, and it puts you through everything the viewer is experiencing: pain, fear, scent, smell, all that jazz. And they want to make a brain dance first person view of this dude getting crucified. And I'm just like, okay, that's a thing. So, I mean, that's just some of the other like kind of crazy stuff, but then it also gets into the nature of, like what is religion in this world where, basically everything that used to be a miracle is now just science. So,
You see, I think they missed a golden opportunity here. He shouldn't be
mhm.
praying to Jesus. He should be praying to RN Jesus.
Ah, yes, Randy. So that was like the most recent mission, and I'm also trying to do one of the romance missions currently now, and just a couple of these other things. But I also keep reading that there's like other characters, like, and it's like, oh, you can get a trophy for doing all of these characters' missions because even though, depending on your gender, you can only be locked into two types of romances. The other characters will still appear, and I'm like, I haven't even met two of these characters, so it's just clearly like I clearly have not been playing enough of the main story yet.
So, out of curiosity here, have you gotten to the limo missions yet?
Limo, yes, I have met GLaDOS.
Okay.
That is just one of many actual like science fiction, um, pop culture references that are in this game. Like a lot of the icons in the game are actually for like power ups and stuff. They're actually like key images from like science fiction movies or other pop culture. So like one of them is literally like Lucas with the power glove like this, but he's got like a teched out face, from the wizard. And then there's GLaDOS, and then a lot of the some of the NPCs are apparently like famous streamers and YouTubers and other science fiction writers, and apparently the
Freaking Kojima.
creator. Yeah, Kojima's in it. Met Kojima, and then also Cyberpunk initially was a tabletop RPG, and the creator plays a character in the game too. So I mean,
Nice.
props to him. Yeah, that's really cool. So there's a lot of that stuff and other little things I notice. I've gotten basically Akira's Kanada's motorcycle from Akira now as well, which is named the Kusanagi. So a little Evangelion reference there too.
Mhm.
So really enjoying it. Other than that, though, as far as future gaming endeavors, I did say that my plan is over the summer to play a bunch of like small games, and I've also really kind of wanted to play some of these classic games that I never got to play because I was a Nintendo 64 kid, and I missed out a bunch of PlayStation classics that I've really been wanting to play.
Such
Um,
as.
so one of the games I have set aside for the summer now is I definitely want to play Parasite Eve, which I
Okay.
found that's only about like 10 to 12 hours, and so I'm looking forward to that again.
That's a Square Enix a horror game, isn't it?
Yeah, yep, sure is.
Wasn't it technically when it came out just an Enix game, but it was before the merger? Or am I misremembering that?
I believe it is a prior to merger. I don't remember if it's Square or if it's
I
Enix that
think it's
made it.
Square, not not Enix, but yeah, but it seems now Square Enix is if it's not Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, they don't seem to care much anymore, which sadly is a lot of video game companies now. Capcom is exceptionally bad about
Now,
this too.
Or surprisingly, Outriders.
Mm,
well, but to be fair, if you want some of the other franchises, you just have to play them on Nintendo.
mm,
Because they are bringing back, much to my pleasure. I mean, we're getting, what is it, Live Alive.
yep, looking
Mhm.
forward to that.
We're getting the Front Mission 1 and 2
Hmm.
apparently.
Yep.
And they've been doing remakes. What was the recent one that just came out? Chrono Cross.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I wish Capcom would listen because all they keep seeming to do is like re-releases and remasters, and I'm like, yes, but I would like Darkstalkers 4, please. Yeah.
You
And I
want
guess I shouldn't say
Darkstalkers?
they're only on Switch. I think they're on everything. But
If you want Darkstalkers 4, buy the Capcom arcade collection that's coming out this year.
Oh,
That
I'm
is the
totally good.
test.
I'm gonna buy 2 copies of that. I'm gonna buy the PlayStation version so
And the
I can
Switch.
actually play it, and the Switch version so I can play it portably.
Nice.
yeah.
And the only other thing I've been thinking about also, and I think I finally figured out my complaint that I had. There was one thing about Metal Gear Solid 5 that bugged me, and I kind of looked more into it. And we were talking a little bit about this on pre-show, but I wanted to get this out there on the
The
podcast
interwebs.
universe, the interwebs, the podcast metaverse, if you will. Um, I am mad at Kojima. This is the one thing that I really feel he kind of did someone dirty on this. But I really like David Hayter. David Hayter is my Solid Snake. I mean, he was Snake through Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4, Peace Walker, Portable Ops Plus, Acid 1 and 2, plus number of other like cameos and appearances.
Freaking Smash
And
Bros.
yeah, and
That's an iconic
Kojima,
voice.
it seems like starting with Metal Gear Solid 3, Kojima always felt it's just like, well, my creations are so amazing that they should be voiced by Hollywood actors. And so he started having Hader re audition for every game, starting with Metal Gear Solid 3. And then finally, he was able to get Kiefer Sutherland for Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, nobody else changed voice actors at all for the game series. The Japanese voice actor for Snake didn't change either. But we had Kiefer Sutherland. And even then, Kiefer Sutherland is doing an amazing Solid Snake impression. I mean, was he bad in the role? Heck no, he did a really good job. But also at the same time, it wasn't the most talkative of Metal Gear Solid games for Snake.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And
Miller and Ocelot talked a lot.
yeah, and Code Talker, even though he's in the game for maybe a bit less than half, probably does way more talking than Snake does in the whole game too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and even then, for those of you who know the plot of the game, there would have been a perfect opportunity to have David Hayter voice Snake in some sections. Those of you who know, I don't. Chris, have you played? I
I've
mean,
played it.
okay, I don't want to spoil it for our listeners, but so
You can
I,
buy the game for $5 now.
yeah,
Go get it.
and I'm out of excuses now too because I played it for my new game of the year, and I'm very glad I did. I really did enjoy it, but that's just something to me that screams like Kojima is just like I am the most famous of game designers now, and I want my characters to be voiced by famous people, and it's just like, dude, 90% of the characters that you have made for video games have been stolen from popular movies. Because Snake is Snake Plissken. The characters from Police Knots are Murtaugh and who is the other guy from Lethal Weapon? Basically, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover's characters are the two characters from Police Knots.
I have a confession. I have never
Yeah.
seen any of the Lethal Weapon movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Surprising, but it's not one of the ones I would feel that you have to see. And then, what's the other one that he did? Snatcher is Blade Runner. Yeah. So, it's just one of those things. It's just like, dude, you're almost very good at getting to the point between is this an homage, a parody, or just outright stealing. So, don't get me wrong. And other games are guilty of this too. Like if you were to look at the plots for the first 4 Metroid games, they kind of mirror the plots of the first four Alien movies closely.
Yeah.
If you want 100% pure original Kojima, go play Death Stranding.
And even then, in art or anything, we used to joke in college. Some of the professors would say, when it comes to art, 10% is original ideas, 90% is borrowing someone else's. So I
That's
get
called a
it, but
remix.
yeah, but at the same time, it's just this was clearly Kojima kind of feeding his own ego, which on the one hand I get, but at the same time, when you have an actor who has been Solid Snake, and really, I mean, I know he didn't know at this point that this was going to be the last Metal Gear game with him involved. I still feel it's just like you gotta pay tribute to the original.
I would
So
agree. Yeah.
that's my 2 cents. So Kojima, you're kind of a butthole when it came to people who did you good for quite a long time. So
Like
shame on you.
like I've been saying from the get go here, uh, Metal Gear Solid 5 is definitely not a perfect game. That is kind of a travesty there. Some of the story elements were, eh.
Yeah.
I have always praised the game for its gameplay and its game mechanics. The fact that if you keep going for headshots and then halfway through the game they start wearing helmets, that they adapt their troops based on your play style is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a video game. But you are absolutely right. How he treated David Hayter, he did him dirty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially
I had
when
never-
everybody else got to keep their job.
I would always assume that it was Konami. I didn't realize or know that it was a Kojima.
Well, now I'm slightly concerned that if Kojima ever came back to do Metal Gear Solid, it's going to be what's his name from The Walking Dead.
Oh, Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus from Snake, and instead of rations, they're going to do Monster Energy drinks.
So I think the audience wants Kojima to do Metal Gear again. I don't think Kojima.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been saying since like Metal Gear Solid 2 that he was done.
Yeah.
So
And then he gets another idea.
I want Bluepoint to do it.
I think that's also why like he has had so many celebs in Death Stranding, because finally he was just like, there's a company willing to believe in me and fulfill all my wildest celebrity fantasies.
He actually has a video company now, right?
I did not know that.
He's making a motion picture of some sort.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, he got a little big for his britches, I felt, and then that's why he's got Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro and all of these other people showing up.
And
Matt
a lot
Nicholson.
in I guess in Kojima's defense, a lot of those people are actually like his friends. Like he knows a lot of those people.
Like why Jeff Keighley's in there.
Yeah. Some of them are just like because he's such a fan of certain actors and filmmakers. That's why they're in there.
And it made sense to work with Guillermo when they were going to do Silent Hills together, and they were also going to work with Junji Ito, who's probably one of the most incredible horror manga writers and illustrators. It has ever been some of my displeasure to read because of how awful and scary his crap can be.
Well, Norman Reedus was going to be in the Silent Hills game as well, so I mean, It's like he picked up where he left off there and just made some
Yeah.
some craziness.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry, I have got us completely off topic, but
No,
Yeah.
you're good.
So what have I been playing? I think I'm the only one left to talk about that.
Yep.
So since last week, I did finish playing again Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I didn't realize I did this. I beat the game on the hardest difficulty, and I unlocked a secret ending, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Not that it was like anything like it was funny. It was there was a song that I unlocked
Now you
during
replayed it
the.
because they unlocked the variable refresh rate, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful game, man. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Lots of fun. And that's all I'm going to say about Rift Apart. The other game, and I, for some reason, didn't talk about it at all last week, but I'll do it the service of talking about it now. I did the mistake of talking about it before we were recording, and so then when we were talking and recording, it just slipped my mind. But yeah, over the I guess our long break and literally just tonight, I finally finished Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is
Okay.
an indie game that doesn't look like an indie game. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of like Zelda influence with some Pikmin in it, and it has a very like spiritual, because I mean it's called Bridge of Spirits
Mhm.
type touch to the story, as you could probably imagine, right? She's
Okay.
literally guiding spirits to the afterlife.
Oh, neat.
Nice.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's kind of crazy that this is the Ember Labs' first video game, like
Ever?
ever.
Wow. That is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's there's some aspects to the game that a little rough around the edges, and it's not from like a polished standpoint. I guess my one complaint about it is the game is much harder than it looks.
Uh,
I played most of the game on normal mode until I got to the second to the last boss, and I just kept, I just kept getting frustrated fighting that dude. And the worst part is this is the first time that so the boss before it, I was able to get past him by watching as a plus member, you get the hints. You can watch like the clips of, hey, this is how you do it, and that was enough to get me past the third to last boss. The second to last boss, I watched it, did not help. Did not help. It was super frustrating because I basically get to like I think at best like 25% health, and I just run out of gas because. And when I did finally beat it, and I finally beat it tonight, and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna knock it down to baby mode, and I just want to see how the story ends.
You know, there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Been there, done
Our
that.
time on this earth is limited, and
Mhm.
if you've already gotten the enjoyment out of the gameplay portion, hold on. Then yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't like doing it, right? But at the same time, it's like you said, right? Um, I, it was either that or I just not come back and play it, and I was like, oh, I want to at least know how this ends. I've gotten this far, and it did not disappoint. It's a good game. It's got a good little story to it.
would you say it's worth buying at full price, or is that one you would recommend to wait until it's on sale?
Well, I think full price is only like $40, so I think it's worth a $40 game.
Okay.
All right.
Please.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about less fun things and more about infuriating things, the most rage-inducing bosses. So we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Syrup Shots Gaming Podcast. Like going to a diner late at night, taking a shot of syrup. It's probably a bad idea, but we're going to do it anyway. If you like this content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. You know that usual general stuff that people ask you to do. What's that? You want to leave us a review? Fantastic. You can leave a 5-star review, wink wink, at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get this great content. Thank you for choosing to listen to us, and we look forward to bringing you more dumb content in the future. All right, and welcome back. So now, most rage-inducing bosses that we have ever encountered. Who wants to go first? I figured we could do 2 each.
Okay, I get good. I got two, but my thing is, I can only remember ones from like more recent memory. So I know there have been several, but these are the ones that really like made me lose my crap within the like probably the last decade. Any more before then, it's just I guess it's one of those things where the past starts to look more rosy than it actually was. Ugh. We want me to
Yeah.
go first?
Yeah,
I
Okay,
mean,
it
you're
sounded like you were.
talking
all right. Go
already,
ahead.
Yeah, it
so
sounded
go
like
ahead.
you were gonna go down a
Oh,
path
my
there.
bad. My bad. Okay, okay. So first off, the one that I can remember being an absolute train wreck of a boss was Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, the final boss, Senator Armstrong.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
yes, who could refill his entire health bar in the middle of the fight if you didn't know what you were doing. And also in that fight, there you were basically on low health automatically, and there was very few resources for you to get health back in that fight. So I just remember it being mind-numbingly hard, and then I remember finally getting him down to health low enough. I'm like, yes, I'm finally going to win. And then he starts regenerating his health, and the game doesn't really. It shows you what you do to do, but what it doesn't tell you is that if you use like the aiming mode to do your sword slashes or something, it doesn't count during his fight for some reason. And so I just remember being so frustrated, and I finally looked up like online, and it's just like, you got to do it this way, and it's just like, why in the hell? In any other part of the game, what the way I did it would have been fine. Why with the battle with this butthole do I have to do it the absolute other way? And it's just a mind-numbingly frustrating fight. There's nothing really, like a core mechanic that makes it fun. And no, it is just literally a knockdown, drag out fight with you in the game. I mean, there is really no fun to be had at that point. It's just like, I just want to see the end of the damn game. Let me do what I want. And no, we've got this roided out U.S. senator who's talking about his glory college football days. And it's just like, shut up and die. I want to go back to slicing giant robots in half with my incredible sword while my robot dog follows me. Uh, I mean, the fight with him with the other Metal Gear before that was even more fun, And you're like dodging missiles and crap, and it's just like, how did we make fighting giant multi-limbed robot with missiles so much fun, but then fighting a dude in glasses, he looks like if Tyler decided to go roided out. That's what Senator Armstrong looks like. And it's just like, first off, this design is uninspired, and second, why is it so not fun? Uh,
Not one of Platinum's finest moments.
yeah, or
I
Kojima's for that matter.
I'm not gonna lie. I love that boss fight.
Oh,
I I I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. You're right. It was infuriating, but when I beat him, that was one of the most rewarding boss fights I have ever completed. Because I
uh,
never felt that it was completely unfair. There was some cheapness to it. Do not get me wrong, but I never felt it was completely unfair.
uh,
I
I don't
I
know.
that I look back on that with just sunshine and rainbow glasses.
Man, I don't know. By the time it was done, I was just like, if this guy was on fire, I wouldn't pee on him to put it out. It's just I had enough of him so much at that point. Um, as for the whole time about it being, you thinking that it's not unfair. Well, at the same time, when they don't bother to tell you that, oh, by the way, you can't use the aiming mode in the in this fight anymore. It's just like that's just a cheap shot. That's just old school video game BS. And I was not having any part of that.
Fair enough.
Gotcha.
Dang it, Kojima, what are you doing?
And Kojima's just on your list tonight, isn't he?
I guess
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Did Kojima have a big role to play in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance?
I think he wrote the plot.
Yeah, his name's stamped on it.
I mean, he puts his name on everything.
Because originally it was going to be a Kojima production. It was halfway
Okay.
through where they kept hitting hiccups there, where they partnered with Platinum, right?
Yeah, because it was just going to be Metal Gear Rising.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it became
Ah,
Revengeance.
okay.
Because I remember the I call it the watermelon trailer, where it just shows Raiden lining up to about slice this watermelon into like all these 35 different pieces. Because they were
Okay.
showing off the tech at the time. I think Kojima wanted it so you could literally slice anything in the game, and it would be like 2 separate pieces. Which that would be an astounding achievement in video game design. But by the time Revengeance came out, you could do some of that stuff, but then it's just like, oh, it disappears very quickly. Oh, I
Yeah.
sliced this Metal Gear Ray into 50 bite-sized alphabet soup pieces,
And then it explodes.
yeah, and it explodes and disappears. Oh well, there we go. So that was the number one on my list. That one was, yeah. When that game came out, 10 years ago. Ugh.
Yeah, something like that.
Reminds me of this comic. I don't think I sent it to you guys, but I meant to. And it's like there's this kid running around, and he just says, "Hey guys, you remember this old gem of a game?" And then it just shows the main character of the comic. But that game just came out, and then he just goes, "Wait, oh god!" And then the next scene is him with a walker, just like he didn't realize it's been that long. That's me. uh, what was the
Well,
last Pokemon game you played, Mr. M? Pokemon X. That was a great one. That came out 10 years ago. I was 5. Shut up.
okay. Well, speaking of cheap shots and speaking of old games, the first one I'm going to talk about today is Jinpachi from Tekken 5, which released in 2004, which was the final boss for the story mode, or arcade mode, whatever you want to call it, that you had to go through with all of your characters.
That was Tekken 5, right?
That's what I said.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I
that-
said it came out in 2004.
Oh, my
If
bad.
you wanted to feel old,
Yeah,
I'm telling
yeah,
you.
Yeah, when we graduated high school. Yeah.
Ah.
Really, this whole list could have just been video game boss fights in fighting games that are.
It could have been.
absolutely
It could have been. This guy was, and I'm, of the three of us here, I am the least, fighting game aficionado. But at one point in time, I used to be a pretty big Tekken fan, and starting with I think Tekken 2, or Tekken 3. I think it was Tekken 3. It was on the original PlayStation.
Yeah.
Anyways, and man, that last boss he was just a doozy because depending on who you're playing with, he could kill you in 2 hits. So,
Jeez.
and he had a projectile. He would shoot out a fireball.
Mm.
So it's not like he didn't have reach. So
Yeah,
I mean, if
fighting
you're
game
playing,
where there's hardly any projectiles at all.
yeah. So I mean, exactly. It's not like you're playing Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter where there are projectiles are a little bit more common. If you're playing as a big, heavy dude, you had to play, perfectly. And if you're on the other side of it, right? If you're playing someone super, super fast that doesn't hit so hard, you just better keep dodging. It's not that he was unbeatable. I was able to beat him with a lot of the characters I was good at, but that became the first. Well, actually, it was the last Tekken game I played. But prior to that, I beat the game with every character in the fighting game roster because that's what you used to do with fighting games, right?
Yeah, that's how you
Uh,
unlock the characters. Now you just
yeah.
unlock your Visa card.
Well, that was the first Tekken game where I didn't that I had played that I didn't do that. I beat them with the characters that I liked, and that I was good at. I tried with a few of them, and then I was like, yeah, this guy sucks. I'm
Mhm.
done. I'm
I
done.
remember at the time we were working Dairy Queen, and you and our old coworker Rick, apparently, like you two had been at each other's, one of the other's house, just trying to beat Jinpachi, and, and the amount of swearing that was in the kitchen that evening. Uh, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I wasn't the Tekken fan, and I still really am not. Like the most Tekken I've played was Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Yeah, I never played that, but
Uh, and so it's just like, so I knew of Tekken, but it's just like I was asking you guys about, well, like who's Jinpachi? Oh, it's Heihachi's dad, and I'm like, oh, Heihachi's the one with like
so
the
the interesting story, for the most part, for those
Mhm,
of you who don't know anything about Tekken or Tekken stories, it's all about this messed up, abusive family dynamic. You've got
mhm,
Jin, who's the like on the cover of Tekken 5 and Tekken 4, who is the grandson of Heihachi.
mhm,
And Jin's dad is Kazuya, who's
mhm,
literally his alter is a devil. But
mhm,
yeah, Heihachi actually throws Kazuya off a
mhm,
volcano or
mhm.
into a volcano. I think one
Oh,
of
I
the
think
older
now
games.
everyone knows about that after Smash Brothers did
Yeah.
the throwing off of the cliff into the volcano meme.
So hmm,
Let's throw Ganondorf and Captain Falcon and Min Min.
yeah.
Oh
And
no,
then,
here comes Kirby.
yeah, and then of course, there's some weird characters. Like there's I think a raptor,
Yep,
and then
Alex and a
yeah,
kangaroo,
and the
Roger.
kangaroo with
Yep,
boxing gloves. Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
yep.
And
Uh,
and 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 there's Kuma the bear.
yep.
So
Yep. Who video game junkie was showing me that can, beat people with a salmon, So
mhm,
it sounds
mhm.
great.
Yeah, I mean it's a fun arcade, fighting game.
hmm
I haven't played in a long time. But yeah, that boss sucked.
Mm. Oh,
He was cheap. And I
yeah.
think I mean, you had started to talk about that when you were telling your hated boss or
hmm
frustrating boss. Is
Yes.
that it just felt like it was cheap.
hmm It's one thing when it's a hard game and it's a hard boss and it's on you, but when it just arbitrary difficulty spikes, that's when it feels like crap. And fighting games are really bad about this. So like
Hmm.
Onaga from Mortal Kombat Deception, uh, the
So
Shao Kahn from the
th-
original MKs.
I was gonna say, don't you're about to take mine.
Oh, I am. Oh, I better stop
Well,
talking.
Tyler, it's your
Yeah,
turn.
yeah. Then
Yeah.
which
So
fighting game
Segue.
character are you talking about?
I was debating between a couple of different fighting game bosses. At first, I was leaning towards Gil from Street Fighter 3, Final Impact, because he was obnoxious, and then once he finally got his life bar down, he healed it all back.
Yes, and wasn't the
But
only way to interrupt that with like an ultra
yeah,
attack? Yeah.
that was infuriating. But the more I thought about it, I went back to Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 Shao Kahn.
Mm,
And there are a couple different reasons you were talking about that
mm-hmm,
he stands out as the biggest fu to players.
mm-hmm.
So first off, Chris, you were talking about how Tekken doesn't have projectiles. Well, what if projectiles don't matter? None of them stun him. You can't do a get over here. You can't free Shao Kahn. It might do a tiny bit of damage, but then he just shadow shoulder strikes you and you're dead. Um, but the worst offense, the absolute worst, the quarter gobbling monstrosity, he read your inputs. He knew
Yes.
what you were
Yep.
going to do before you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They have now admitted that for Mortal Kombat 2 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat
3,
3 and
yeah.
all of them, as a way to create difficulty in the game and eat more quarters, the arcade machine was reading your button inputs.
Not just the arcade one, the SNES ones did that too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So if you tried to do it on any of the harder difficulties, good luck, because you are not going to sleep that night because it ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It-
Well, there was one way to do it, and I remember we were playing it at your place, and we had that one former friend, not our Phil, a different Phil.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and we were playing, and you guys were like, "Yeah, you can't beat Shao Kahn," and I'm just like, "Well, there's one character you can," and but Noob Saibot for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, you could, because now you were basically being a cheap
I mean, if
bastard.
all you had to say was you're playing as New Saibot, and I assumed you were being a cheap bastard.
Yes, but in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, he had the Ghost Fireball, which literally made it like surrounded the enemy with like a field, and then
They
any
can
move
block.
they couldn't block, and they couldn't damage you while that effect was on there. And then also, Noob had a combo unique to him that was just the low kick button 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
So spam both of those moves, you will beat Shao Kahn, because even if he's reading your inputs, he still can't damage you.
That's one of the few projectile moves that actually had any impact on him, because most of the other ones he didn't flinch from. He didn't do the get over here. He didn't freeze.
Yeah.
I mean, freaking Motaro in front of that reflected them at you.
Mm-hmm.
The only version of Shao Kahn that might be tougher, and this is a huge might be, is the Tower of Challenges in Mortal Kombat 9, the 2011 one.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because that one was the final challenge of the tower. You had to beat in one life without dying on very hard difficulty
Mm-hmm.
Goro, Kintaro, Melina, and Shao Kahn.
Yep. And that's how you got that like uber skimpy Melina in Band-Aids outfit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, the fact that fighting games used to read your inputs like that just to gobble up quarters, infuriating. But
oh yeah.
but there's always that part of you like, I can do it. I can outthink the thinking machine. I can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be there's got to be a perfect, unparryable, unblockable pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I remember that being part of the story mode, and it was actually pretty hard. And that you had to fight Goro and Kintaro on one life, but you had to do it as Cyber Sub-Zero, which was so brand new at the time that you weren't able to really think of any like legacy moves that he could have, except for the ice ball, and that was about it. The ice ball,
He had the slide too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anyway, but all of his other moves, though, were different. And even then, his X-ray move was different from everybody else's, and that you had to jump to use it. So I just, when I found out what you needed to do to get the final Melina costume, and I'm just like, I'm not that lonely.
Not gonna lie, I kind of hope that one day they re-release Mortal Kombat 9. Because right now, I had it on PlayStation 3.
Okay.
But you can stream it on PlayStation Now with PlayStation. You can play it on Xbox. You have to have the disc, though. They don't actually let you buy it digitally or physically anymore.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's interesting.
That's lame.
Yeah. I think that's a Warner Brothers maneuver, but
Oh.
And I think it also has to
boy.
Yeah. It might also have something to do with the Kratos.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But
that is one thing some of these companies don't think about when they have, we have the guest character. Oh, well, it's one of the many reasons why Tekken 3 has a hard time getting ported to stuff, because they have Gone in it.
I mean, that's the same reason why Tony Hawk's Pro Skater took so long to get a remake. With all the music.
Well,
yeah.
Also, Activision being Activision.
Yeah, and freaking Spider-Man.
Yep. All right, Dave. Who's your next
Oh,
cheap boss?
time for my round two. Okay, let me.
Yep.
I got the names mixed up earlier, so let me. I'm just double checking. Yes. So okay, story time background for this one. It was around the time after I had lost my corporate job at a company where I did graphic design at, and that kind of crushed me. I had worked there for 5 years, and I thought things were finally starting to look better. They were bought out by a much larger corporation, and then yeah, people just ended up on the cutting block. So I was one of the few to go probably in like that first couple waves,
Yeah.
and I was not in a good place. And at the same time, also, one of the things that was making me bleed money was that the meds I take, because I have panic disorder, um, was not generic yet. It was so close, like you could taste it, but it
But just
wasn't
wasn't quite
generic
there
yet.
yet.
It just wasn't quite there yet. So I'm bleeding money because Cymbalta was expensive. And so I just asked my doc, and I'm like, hey, look, is there anything else we can try just to maybe, until things get a little better, just kind of tide me over. We can just try it. And he's like, well, we can try this stuff. And so I can't even, honest to God, tell you what its name was anymore, but it was generic at the time. Just to say, it didn't work, okay? But it was
Mhm.
kind of a slow process to figure this out while my body adapted from not being on some vault anymore to being on this new stuff. So in that time, I decided to play Bloodborne because the thing was, I became a job hunting, maniacal, crazy person. From the moment I woke, I still kept a schedule, even though it's just like I don't have to go to work. Finding work became my full time job at that point in my life. I would get up at 8 o'clock every day, and then I would
Fly.
get on the kitchen and apply, network, do resumes, search the internet for more jobs, check out with other contacts that I had, and just do all of that crap. And just also, kind of brainstorm with my dad because he had just gotten retired at that point and see if he had any contacts I could take advantage of too. And I would do that from 8 in the morning until probably 12:30, 1 o'clock, just straight doing that. No breaks, you
Yeah.
know, none of that. So that's a solid about 5 hours of doing this.
hmm
Yeah, 5 hours of doing that, which, then I would take lunch, and then what I would do is to also kind of keep my mind of things because it's just like, just doing this stuff for the solid. And and some days it's just like nothing new comes up as you work on in the day. So it's just kind of like that my work day was only about like 5 hours doing this stuff. But then it's just like I'm going on a walk, so I would then take like an hour walk. But then by the time I'd be done with that, it's 2 o'clock and there's really not much else I could do until the next day and start the process over. So it's just like I need something to do. So I play games, and even sometimes as I would play them, I would feel bad. But my dad would also kind of be like, "Well, what else were you supposed to do?
Right.
You have followed up with everything you could this day." So I was able to, play a lot of games at the time that really kind of almost saved me in that, like, I was able to kind of really rediscover my love for Nintendo, and that I was finally able to play and beat Earthbound at the time. I did the
Okay.
same with Breath of the Wild, and there were a lot of great titles at the time. And and I bought Breath of the Wild on the Wii U for that reason. I couldn't afford a Switch, so I'm just like, well, it's coming to the Wii U, why not? So, but my brother had come to visit for that Christmas, and he got me started on Bloodborne. And initially I was kind of hesitant to not play it with him because I was hoping that it could be kind of something fun we could do together. But his visits anymore are always like really brief and short and kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, let's just see if these Soulsborne games are really everything they say they are. And for the main game, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of the main game.
Sure.
There were even some bosses I'm just like, that was supposed to be hard, or I either got insanely lucky, but each time again, it was also just like, oh, I can see what I did on that part, and it's just like, oh. Or then also the communities for these games are really positive, and so it's just like I got to a really hard part in the game. What do I need to do, and why is this? And they're like, oh, well, what is happening is there are 3 bell maidens in there who ring the bells that resummon the dead enemies that you keep killing back to life, and until you kill them, they'll keep resummoning the enemies back. It's really the hardest part of the game. You just got to get through it, and you'll probably be fine. And I'm like, got it. All right. I got to find these women and kill them, So,
Terrible sentences taken out of context.
yeah, out of context, Dave. Yay. Uh, so the one thing Doug had not played though is he did not play the DLC, the Old Hunters. And I lucked out, managed to find it on like a sale, so I got it for like $7. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'll one up Doug. I will beat the Old Hunters DLC.
Little did you know.
And then I got to the first boss of the Old Hunters DLC. Now, I hear more often than not that the final boss for the DLC is the penultimate horrible boss for video games. It's on a lot of video games. That's not the one I had the most trouble with, though. And what got me was his name is Ludwig the Holy Blade. He basically looks like a giant human horse chimera, and not in like the cool centaur way, like
Sure.
In the David Cronenberg body horror film way.
I mean,
And
watch any video footage for Bloodborne. You'll see there's some weird stuff.
yeah, so it was Ludwig that he had like no pattern of predictability that I could find. And so with that, with each fight, you can kind of see what you did wrong. But with him, it's just like, what do I do? And so, and the other problem I was having, as I mentioned with the meds, I was starting to then get so panicky and averse with this boss fight because my meds weren't working anymore. So
Ooh.
I'm now getting back to the place where, like anxiety and panic are starting to trigger. And it's just kind of like, wait, this is what I'm supposed to do for fun, not freak out over like some kind of weirdo. And I even remember like telling Chris about this. Like we were doing like a St. Patty's Day festival. You came to see it, and I'm talking
Mhm.
about like a crazy person about like there's this creature in the video games who's like I'm a meth addict at Home Depot trying to make art or something, like oh let's add more 2x4s and wooden screws, you know, and, and it was just so difficult. But I think part of the difficulty was just where I was at the same time. So finally, I beat him, and it was probably, like the 10th or some odd try because, I don't like to brag, but I do pretty good at video games. And so the most any other boss in that game had taken me was 3 tries. And I would usually get it on the third try because I would like learn from my mistakes. And with him taking like at least 10, and to the point, it's just kind of like, I've gotten my $7 out of this DLC. And I'm just also like, also, I still have it,
You can go back.
and I can always go back. I know some people are like, but you beat the game, right? I'm like, yeah, I beat the game. I beat the moon presence. I got the like real official ending. Will it just be harder the next time? Well, yeah. Well, I can always delete my save and just restart because that's what the game does anyway.
Right.
But I just no pattern. Just so crazy to try and get to him. And again, it's a Soulsborne game, and he's like one of the fastest things in the game, and he's that large, and then he has a mid-fight transformation, and then he pulls out the Holy Blade out of like his spine, and then he then gains a whole new set of attacks, and so
Yeah.
it's just also like, oh, well, it just took me, like a half hour to get to you, and now you have changed tactics completely, and it's going to be another half hour for me to get back to you, plus the first boss fight part, which I'm still having trouble with. I hate that guy.
All
Fair.
right.
Mhm.
Question for the group: Does
Mhm.
our boss need to be one that we've actually beaten? Number one.
I'd say no.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two. Does it matter if it's? I mean, I guess Dave's pick was optional. It's not
Mm.
a story driven boss. So I
That's
guess
fine.
the floor is
Well, then
mine.
again, this is Soulsborne. Every boss could technically be considered part of the story, even if it's optional, because you know how the Soulsborne games are so lore heavy but narrative light.
Well, sure,
Yeah,
but it was DLC.
yeah, it was. It
That's
was.
optional,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to pick one.
Hmm.
Tyler, you go.
All right. So mine is actually from a game from last year,
Okay.
and it's a game series I usually have no troubles with. But the final boss of this game, there was a nice, easy breezy gameplay. You get to the final boss,
Okay.
That
and
was
that
like
is
Heavenly Sword.
Cynthia of the Elite Four from Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Oh, okay.
So everything else up until then, you've had kind of a natural progression with your leveling up and whatnot. And in
Hmm.
Sure.
theory, hers lines up with that kind of ascent,
Hmm.
except for three fundamental things that makes it completely different.
Okay.
One, she uses max revives throughout the whole darn thing. Or not max revive, max restores. So
Hmm.
it will cure any sleep, it will cure any poison, it will cure all health. So that's thing number one.
Hmm.
Thing number two is their max EV and IVs. So
Okay. Perfect stats. Mm.
yeah, it's they're the kind of Pokemon that take someone usually about 300 to 400 hours to breed one of those mother truckers.
I got you.
And then number three, also going on the breeding mechanics, they knew egg moves. They had hidden abilities that you can't get naturally in the game.
Mm.
So you literally had to level up almost 10 levels above her with each of your Pokemon to beat her.
Oh, Jesus.
She is the
Okay.
reason why James said, I beat her, I'm done with this game, and walked away.
Now, is this the action? No, okay. Is this post end game stuff, Cynthia, or
This is
final
just
boss?
the base one. She gets
Mm.
tougher post game
Oh wow.
because she takes one of her dud Pokemon out of the mix and adds
Mhm.
a fairy flying type, so can
Mm.
handle any dragon types, and gets up to, I think, like level 85,
Oh
all with
geez.
max IVs and max
So
stats.
you so you got to be level 100 with everybody.
Yep. And this is also something different from the other things in the game. Her Pokemon have held items,
Hmm.
and she is very clever with those held items. And I will give you one prime example. There's a Pokemon called Melodic. It's a water type water serpent thing.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
It has an ability called Marvel Scale.
Hmm.
If it suffers from an ailment like burn, poison, paralysis, etc.,
Hmm.
its defense is double.
Yeah. Not
She
fun.
she has it holding a flame orb, so it auto burns itself on the first turn every time.
Oh Jesus.
And then will heal it, but not heal the burn.
Ah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So it was one of those things where, just natural progression, wall, gotta go back and just grind up, get ready for it. And she actually has a counterpart in Pokemon Legends Arceus. someone's like her ancestor, almost the same identical team,
Mm.
except breaks the fundamental rule of Pokemon, which is you can't have more than 6 Pokemon.
Oh,
This mother
okay.
trucker has her team,
Mm.
then Giratina, the dragon ghost Pokemon.
Isn't that like the Pokemon Devil?
Yes, yes, it is. And then you have Origin Form Giratina after that.
Oh Jesus!
It's like with you not being able to heal or do anything in between any of those, it is one straight fight.
Wow.
I like a good
Oh, that.
challenge, but I like it when it has a natural progression to it.
Hmm.
Even if it's a
Even
Sure.
me
slight
as
curve.
even
I don't need it to go flat line 90-degree.
even Miyazaki from Software would be like, that's a bit much.
Yeah, exactly. Which I mean, don't get me wrong. I always hope that there's a hard mode in Pokemon games. That's something I think that needs to be in the next games. But again, natural progression and have it be stuff that you when you fight them, you can have too. If I can't get that Pokemon with those abilities, with those attacks in the game, that ain't fair.
No, no, it's not.
So that is my rant. That is why if you were ever play a Pokemon game, she is the queen. She is the tippy top of the Elite Fours of any of the regions. Lance can suck it.
And thank you for coming to Tyler's TED Talk, everybody.
Yes.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, I will pick my my final choice of a frustrating boss. Will be both optional um and an old game again. I will mine is Sephiroth from Kingdom Hearts 2.
I was
Oh,
wondering if that was going to be who it was.
yep, yep.
Oh man, I spent so much time in that game. I love Kingdom Hearts 2. It's a great game. Far better than the sequel that we got what 10 years later.
Hmm.
Um, eh, which is disappointing, and that's not the topic of our discussion for the day. But man, I did like everything in that game. I got like all stacked up and ready to fight Sephiroth. He's still hard. as
Hmm.
hell.
Like I have heard that you can get max level and still be difficult.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
and I was, and I unlocked. I think the I think I had an ultimate weapon, which is the best keyblade that you can get, and I was all kitted out, man. He's still hard. He's still hard. You have
Hmm.
to. I mean, there's and the bad thing about it is by the time that I got to that point, I was so overpowered and over leveled against everything else that I was no longer that good at the game anymore because I didn't have to be. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap. Like I have to like time my attacks and I have to avoid certain attacks. There's some things that you can block, a lot of it you can't.
Yep. Mhm.
He's hard. He's
Mhm.
very hard. And you know, I like the a lot of the Square games that have included the optional bosses. I think it's fun. It adds an extra layer of challenge. Um, some of my fondest memories are playing, some of the older Final Fantasies that had those optional bosses.
Mhm.
Um, but man, Sephiroth, frustrating as hell. I
Mhm.
never beat him. I never beat
Uh,
him.
I tried fighting him once in Kingdom Hearts original. I was just like, nope, we're not doing this.
I've been contemplating doing a replay of the Kingdom Hearts game before Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out.
I still need to play Kingdom Hearts 3.
Well, that would also be included in that for me.
Yeah, but I should probably play again because as far as the storyline is concerned, I don't remember much. And then now what's even worse is they made
It's so complicated,
So
man.
so
yeah, and they
I
made every side game have required story to it.
so I have heard the best analogy that makes it okay to have all those side games. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine Kingdom Hearts is like the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you're gonna say that.
1, 2, and 3 are the Avenger movies. All the other
Mm-hmm.
ones are the individual solo films of the
Gotcha.
Kingdom Hearts games.
That's pretty good.
Nah,
Yep.
that's
I
probably
remember playing
fair, right?
Chain of Memories on my Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
That is one of the few ones you can't replay. They have a newer version that's in 3D.
Yeah, the Rechain of Memories.
Rechained, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so fingers
Uh,
crossed that whenever they do virtual Game Boy and Game Boy Advance on the Switch.
yeah. Well, I mean, I could still replay it. I still kept the cartridge.
Well, yeah.
So.
Guys, I think
Mhm.
that's an excellent podcast tonight.
Yeah.
We
An
did it.
excellent but frustrating podcast.
Yeah. If I was wearing my Apple Watch, I'm pretty sure it would tell me my heart rate went up just thinking about some of those bosses.
Yeah, Senator Armstrong.
Oh, you must be working out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ludwig the Holy Blade. Mr. Dave, you've had a heart attack.
I just already hear in my head Shao Kahn, you suck.
Yeah, you suck.
But guys, thanks for joining tonight. Thanks for listening, listeners. And until next time, game on.
Game on, everybody.
Come on.